former Brit, like that's huge news what's going on there with your fellow former countryman there, Jony Ive. Like he was definitely at the forefront with Apple there when Steve Jobs came back to Apple. And that meeting with Johnny there when he said, design me something that just blows me away. And there you go. And they created the iPhone. Jony Ive turned that into billions of dollars. And we're going to play a little clip here from CNBC talking about Johnny.
Hi, Kelly. So we're hearing that OpenAI has now agreed to buy Jony Ive's AI startup. It's called IO Products. It's a roughly $6.4 billion deal. Ives is legendary in Silicon Valley. He's best known for designing the iPhone, the Mac, iPod, and iPad, as well as Apple Watch. So really an iconic designer. $6.4 billion deal. It's going to be all equity. OpenAI already owns about 23% of the firm, so they're going to be putting in another roughly $5 billion. It is a massive price tag and a massive deal. In startup land, OpenAI itself, if you think about the valuation, it's about $300 billion in terms of the price tag. This company, IO, Jony Ive's company, does not have any devices on the market yet, we should mention. Very early stage startup. It is a signal, though, that OpenAI is right now leaning into devices. They're willing to pay billions to officially have Jony Ive to do it. It is a
I like that. No devices. And Jony Ive cashing, ringing. You know what? He's making music better than the Beatles. Like cashing in bigger than the Beatles. Cashing in bigger than a lot of Brits. Definitely. You know, we talk about sometimes how the Brits aren't leading in the AI space, but Jony Ive rang that cash register, right? We got a little. Here's the thing. Jony Ive. You can put up that next slide there. Former Apple chief designer. And definitely when he's as a young man there, the iPhone, you know, like huge deal for him. And then obviously all his other products. And then he worked for Tim Cook, obviously later. I don't know, like how much innovation do you think, since Steve Jobs' death, how much has Apple innovated, like launched new products? Not a lot. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
What year did he die now?
I think it was
2011.
Yeah,
so
but if you
yeah,
think,
not very much, because that was the iPad had already been launched then, and the iPad is of sort of the iPad's not exactly like first tier for Apple, I wouldn't say.
It's just a bigger just a bigger phone, right? It's just a bigger phone.
Yeah. I mean,
the watch.
usually what people say is AirPods because they've been so successful, haven't they? That's probably it, isn't it?
And then the watch, I guess, but I mean, it's just a smaller phone.
Yeah, and people don't get very excited about the watch. I don't find like the way people get excited about iPhones and MacBook Pros and stuff like that.
I have tried the glasses, Apple Vision, like absolutely amazing. Just a little heavy to wear, but like unbelievable with some of the stuff they've recorded with it. It's almost like a godlike experience where you feel like you're in the situation. Like it's if you haven't had a chance to try them when you go into an Apple store, just try them. They let you try them out. They're pretty amazing. They're pretty pricey though too, right? I think they're $6,000 or something like that. Where Meta's aren't quite as good, but they're like 1/10 the price. So Meta Vision.
But I think Apple's problem, it's not even a hardware problem, is it? At this point, it's more software. I think they're starting to be left behind by a lot of other companies, and that's the worry. I mean, things like the Apple Intelligence, like that has not got a particularly good reputation, has it?
An ironic name for sure. Apple Intelligence. Obviously, Johnny wasn't a part of that. He's a designer, though. He's more of like the making it do it thing. But here's a little timeline for some people. But it goes right to left. Of course, 1983. I remember I had a phone like that. I had one of the first bricks. So they were very, very heavy, right? Very, very heavy. And then the flip phone. And my daughter says, like, she says now, and if you jump ahead to 2007, you'll see the iPhone there, but then you see the progression of the phone. And it's quite quick. The timeline gets condensed as it moves forward. And my daughter says, as she drives a Tesla, she said, basically, she understands now that everybody else is driving a flip phone, and she's driving an iPhone. That's the difference. So.
I remember when I first got my hands on an iPhone, and it felt so, like, counterintuitive because there were no buttons. It was so hard to like get used to that at first, but
so I was at the I was at the mine site at the time, and I bought one of the first iPhones in Canada. And I went to the mine site, and I had my BlackBerry. Everybody at the site had 8380 BlackBerries to communicate with each other with the QWERTY keyboard. And I showed off the iPhone to people there, and they're just like, that's stupid. Like, where's the keyboard? Like, how are you supposed to do that? That's just ridiculous. I said, it has the internet. And there's like, wow, the BlackBerry has the internet. And it did. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, the internet on it was like, it was as silly as it could get, and the screen was this. But I'm just like, you should try using it for a while. And you know what I mean? So I actually had both for a while, because the mine site phone was the BlackBerry, and my personal phone was the iPhone. And I think because it was a 2 weeks in and 1 out for me. And I came back, and then somebody at that point, BlackBerry responded with the torch. I don't know if you remember the torch from BlackBerry. That was basically, they torched the company at that point. That was the end of BlackBerry, which was RIM. RIM was one of Canada's biggest darling stocks, right? I think it was well over $100. And they launched this thing called the Torch, which looked like, you're gonna love this, it looked like the iPhone. I don't know if anybody else remembers that's watching. Looked like the iPhone, but the screen, they called it interactive. When you pushed on the screen, it dented in, and they said it was an interactive screen. It felt broken to me when somebody showed it to me. Look at this. It's got an interactive screen. I'm just like, it feels broken, right? And then the biggest problem it had, when you put it to your ear, it actually went off. Get shut down.
Oh, no.
So that was the end of RIM. I think the stock went down to like $10, like quite quickly, as the iPhone started to proliferate. And then I had lots of people calling me at the time, just like, look at the buy of RIM right now. It's so cheap. It's like, it used to be over $100, and now it's I think it was like $11, $12. And I said, well, if you think it's a bargain now, just wait a bit. It'll get cheaper yet. And it did not do well. I think it still trades though. They have a lot of patents and stuff like that. RIM.
Yeah, well, it's like Nokia as well. That's still going, but they're not ahead in the phone world. It must be something else that they're doing.
I have no idea. There you go. There's your history of the torch the world. But yeah, that changed the world. The iPhone changed the world. Absolutely, right? Google
certainly changed the world of devices, didn't it? Knocked out so many big players.
Well, including our industry, news. It changed news. Like that was the death blow for newspapers right there, because the newspaper was in your hand, right?
Yeah.
Music too, like
so many different
radio too.
Ultimately, camera companies would suffer as well, wouldn't they? And all sorts of companies.
Radio, television, everything is like on your screen. Like just watch people in an elevator, watch people everywhere. People walk into traffic with a stupid thing in their hand. So Google obviously stuck its face back into the AI world too. Google obviously deep pockets, like they ring that cash register. If you ran, you know how that debt clock runs, you can go to the website, you can see the debt clock run. You know, just kind of like keeps going. And Google, that's how their cash register goes. Google makes a ton of money. And I think it's one of the biggest, most trafficked website, I believe, is still YouTube. The YouTube. You can learn anything on the YouTube.
It's also a massive asset for them now that they're going big style into AI, because they can use YouTube to train. Like most humans do that. They use YouTube to train themselves how to like fix a pipe or something like that. But now they can get their AI to do that, can't they? And they have proprietary access to all of that.
Yeah, and then Elon Musk, this is Sawyer Merritt. He follows Elon quite well. And Elon is stepping away from politics, and I think he realizes that there's lots of competition out there, and he needs to get his stuff to market, and Optimus is one of the big ones, right? And then, somebody's saying if Elon stepped away to focus on his companies, which is, some of the leading companies in the world, and Elon says, bang on.
Well, what he's saying there, what the conversation is actually about is that the Republican Party is so stupid that they're going to add to the debt and spend so much money that the only way to save the United States is through massive GDP growth. Yeah. And then that's what Elon Musk is saying. In other words, that's like saying Doge in some ways can't be the only weapon to try and save the United States.
Well, they did come out
from a financial perspective.
Scott Bessett did say that this morning. I don't know if we played that full clip, but he did say that in that interview that there's, like we talk about it all the time with BC, like there's two ways to fix the budget. Increase revenues and decrease expenses, you know what I mean? Or a balance of, right? So obviously, if you have an army of robots, GDP goes through the roof.
Yeah. But that's the thing, there are lots of ways to increase revenue, aren't there? And sadly, what mediocre, incompetent politicians tend to do these days to increase revenue is increase taxes rather than try to promote growth.
Which actually kills growth. Increasing taxes
the Laffer curve
chases capital away. Like if we let the Unifor, a union president there talk more, that'll be even more people fleeing Canada.
Well, it's been tried. We've seen the experiments run in places like Cuba, and maybe Cuba's not the best example, but Venezuela, certainly. Look at Venezuela. I mean, that's how you do it in the most dramatically bad way. But there are even countries somewhere in the middle where there's been capital flight. You've got to be smart about it, haven't you?
Yeah. Trump just hired the tech genius you never heard of. This guy created the Microsoft Cloud, built Twitter with Elon, and took Facebook past 1 billion users. So there's a lot of really smart guys like trying to get stuff done in the United States. Love them or hate them, some stuff is getting done. And where are we attracting these guys? Like I know Melanie Jolie says that we're going to attract all these Harvard people. I seen like Harvard getting shut down by Kristi Noem. They're saying they're not getting allowed to have foreign students there because they're not adhering to what the government's asking them to do. And then a Canadian journalist wrote that, well, then just move Harvard to Canada. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they just move the whole thing to Canada?
I'm sure they would keep their endowment, which is about the size of
Canada's GDP.
Ontario's GDP or something.
And then here's Jolie. She was talking. I was going to put it in, but I didn't want to listen to her again. But they're definitely. She says they're going to bring back the EV rebates. They said they promised that in the campaign. So, but again, Melanie, maybe Kristi, you can just tell her if you don't drop that EV mandate, there will be no auto sector in Canada. Just a clue.
But she's also talking about that every time she opens her mouth. She says, like, a fundamental part of her economic strategy and her government's economic strategy is to attract talent from the US.
Yeah.
And she even said in this little address to the press here that you've got a screen grab of, she even said, I'm not naive. She said those exact words. I am not naive. Well, why are you acting like somebody that's naive then? If you're not naive. Also, it's one of those things. If you have to say I'm not naive, then you're probably naive, aren't you?
Isn't that the playbook? You just deny it, what's actually happening? We've seen that over and over and over again, haven't we?
Indeed. Like here, yeah. But she also said, I'm pragmatic. That's news to me.
That's news to me as well.